I'm Haley Morrison, 28 years old, and I'm standing in bankruptcy court watching my own family try to destroy everything I've built. My brother Derek sits smugly at the plaintiff's table while my sister Brittany whispers to their high-powered attorney. My parents won't even look at me. They're claiming I owe them $2.3 million from my tech startup, money they say I borrowed and never repaid. The lies are so elaborate, so detailed, that even I'm starting to doubt myself. But then the judge looks down at the company name on the legal documents, and his expression changes completely. He sets down his gavel and stares directly at me. "Wait a minute," he says slowly. "Techvista Solutions? I know that company." Before we dive into this unbelievable story of family betrayal and ultimate justice, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories that will leave you speechless. Trust me, you won't believe how this courtroom drama unfolds, especially when the truth finally comes to light in ways nobody saw coming. 6 months earlier, my life looked completely different. I was a software engineer making $85,000 a year at a mid-sized tech firm, but I had dreams that stretched far beyond my cubicle walls. After spending countless nights developing artificial intelligence algorithms in my spare time, I finally took the leap and founded Techvista Solutions. The company specialized in AI-powered business automation software that could revolutionize how small and medium businesses operated. My family seemed genuinely excited about my entrepreneurial journey, at least initially. They attended my going-away party when I left my secure job, toasted to my success, and promised their unwavering support during what I knew would be challenging early months. Derek, my 32-year-old brother who worked in commercial real estate, was the first to approach me about getting involved. He had always been the golden child in our family, the one who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. With his perfectly styled hair, expensive suits, and confident demeanor, Derek projected success even when his own business dealings were questionable at best. He claimed he wanted to help by providing startup capital and business connections through his real estate network. Similarly, Brittany, my 35-year-old sister who had recently completed her MBA, expressed interest in joining the venture. She had been bouncing between marketing jobs for years, never quite finding her niche, and saw my startup as the perfect opportunity to finally establish herself in the business world. The pressure really intensified when our parents, Gerald and Linda Morrison, called a family meeting at their suburban home. Dad, a retired insurance adjuster with a stern face and authoritative voice, had always controlled family finances with an iron fist. Mom, a former elementary school teacher who now spent her time managing their investments, usually followed his lead in financial matters. They sat me down in their formal living room, the same room where I'd received countless lectures throughout my childhood, and presented what they called a family investment opportunity. They wanted to loan me $500,000 to accelerate my company's growth, but the terms they proposed were suffocating. They demanded quarterly financial reports, veto power over major business decisions, and a 30% ownership stake in exchange for the loan. I politely but firmly declined their offer. Something about their insistence felt wrong, almost desperate. I had secured a small business loan from the bank and had enough personal savings to sustain the company for at least 18 months. More importantly, I wanted to prove that I could succeed on my own merits without family money complicating the dynamics. My refusal clearly didn't sit well with any of them. Derek's face darkened, and he muttered something about me being too proud for my own good. Brittany accused me of not trusting family, while our parents exchanged those meaningful glances that I'd learned to fear throughout my childhood. Within 2 weeks of that meeting, strange things started happening to my business. Potential clients who had expressed serious interest suddenly stopped returning my calls. Industry contacts became mysteriously unavailable when I needed references. I discovered through a mutual friend that Derek had been actively reaching out to people in my professional network, positioning himself as a concerned brother who was worried about Haley's business judgment. He was spreading subtle but damaging rumors about my technical competence, suggesting that I had oversold my capabilities and was in over my head with the complexities of running a startup. Brittany took a different approach, leveraging social media to undermine my company's reputation. She created several fake accounts across various platforms and began posting negative reviews and comments about TechVista solutions. These posts were crafted carefully to avoid anything that could be considered legally actionable, but they painted a picture of a company that overpromised and underdelivered. She questioned my experience, suggested that my software was unreliable, and implied that potential clients should look elsewhere for their automation needs. The posts were subtle enough that they seemed like legitimate customer complaints, but frequent enough to damage my company's online presence during those crucial early months when every lead mattered. After 4 months of relentless networking and product development, I finally landed what seemed like my breakthrough opportunity. Meridian Corporation, a mid-sized manufacturing company with operations across 3 states, agreed to pilot my business automation software. The contract was worth $750,000 over 2 years, enough to establish TechVista Solutions as a legitimate player in the market and provide the financial stability I desperately needed. The CEO, Robert Stevenson, was initially enthusiastic about the potential efficiency gains my software could deliver to his production lines. We had multiple productive meetings, and his technical team was impressed by the demonstration of my AI algorithms. I threw myself into the project with everything I had, working 16-hour days to customize the software for Meridian's specific manufacturing processes. The project required integrating with their existing enterprise systems, developing custom reporting dashboards, and training their staff on the new automated workflows. I invested $50,000 of my own money into additional development resources, hired 2 freelance programmers to help with the implementation, and even relocated temporarily to be closer to their primary facility. Everything seemed to be progressing smoothly until I received a devastating phone call from Robert Stevenson himself. His tone was cold and professional as he informed me that Meridian Corporation was terminating our contract effective immediately. When I asked for an explanation, he mentioned that they had received concerning information about my professional background and integrity. Someone claiming to be a former colleague had contacted him directly, providing what appeared to be credible evidence that I had stolen proprietary code from my previous employer and was now selling it as my own intellectual property. This anonymous tipster had also suggested that I was financially unstable and might not be able to deliver on my contractual obligations. The accusation was completely false, but the damage was done. I had never stolen anything from my previous employer, and all of my code had been developed independently during my own time. However, proving innocence in the business world can be far more difficult than defending against formal legal charges. Robert Stevenson wasn't interested in hearing my side of the story or examining the evidence that would have cleared my name. His company's legal department had advised him to avoid any potential intellectual property disputes, and the safest course of action was simply to walk away from our agreement. The financial impact was catastrophic. Not only did I lose the $750,000 contract, but I also had to write off the $50,000 I had already invested in development costs. More importantly, I lost 4 months of precious time that could have been spent pursuing other opportunities. As a startup in the competitive tech industry, time was my most valuable resource, and this setback had pushed me dangerously close to the point where my initial funding would be exhausted. My suspicions about family involvement were confirmed when I accidentally discovered an email thread that Derek had carelessly left open on his laptop during a family barbecue. While looking for a phone charger in his home office, I saw an email conversation between Derek and someone at Meridian Corporation. The exchange revealed that my brother had indeed been the anonymous tipster who had contacted Robert Stevenson. Derek had posed as a former colleague and had fabricated the entire story about stolen intellectual property. He had even created fake documentation to support his claims, including forged emails and fabricated performance reviews from my previous employer. When I confronted Derek about what I had discovered, his reaction was a masterclass in manipulation and deflection. He initially denied any involvement, claiming that I must have misinterpreted what I had seen. When I pressed him with specific details from the email thread, he shifted to justification, arguing that he was actually trying to protect me from taking on more responsibility than I could handle. According to Derek, I was naive about the business world, and the Meridian contract was too large and complex for someone with my limited entrepreneurial experience. He claimed that he had saved me from an inevitable failure that would have been far more damaging to my reputation and financial stability. Our parents' reaction when I brought the situation to their attention was equally disheartening. Rather than expressing outrage at Derek's sabotage of my business, they seemed more concerned about maintaining family harmony. Dad suggested that there might have been a misunderstanding and that Derek's intentions were probably good, even if his methods were questionable. Mom focused on the importance of family unity and urged me to forgive Derek's mistake for the sake of keeping the family together. Their response made it clear that I couldn't count on parental support in future conflicts with my siblings. Just when my situation seemed hopeless, an unexpected opportunity emerged through a networking event for local entrepreneurs. Marcus Chen, a successful angel investor with a portfolio spanning multiple industries, attended my presentation about AI automation solutions. Unlike the polite but non-committal responses I had received from other potential investors, Marcus showed genuine enthusiasm for the technology one was developing. He had built and sold 2 tech companies himself, so he understood both the technical challenges and market opportunities that my software represented. After several follow-up meetings and due diligence sessions, Marcus agreed to invest $1.2 million in TechVista Solutions in exchange for a 25% equity stake. The infusion of capital transformed everything about my business prospects. I was able to hire a small but talented development team, lease proper office space, and invest in the marketing and sales infrastructure necessary to compete with established players in the automation software market. Within 6 weeks of Marcus's investment, I had signed 3 new clients, including a regional healthcare network and a logistics company that had been impressed by my software's ability to streamline their operations. The company was finally gaining the momentum I had dreamed about during those long nights of coding and planning. Surprisingly, Brittany reached out during this period of growth to congratulate me on my success and to apologize for any past misunderstandings. She claimed that she had gained new perspective on entrepreneurship through her MBA program and now realized how challenging it was to build a company from scratch. Brittany asked if there might be an opportunity for her to contribute to TechVista Solutions in some capacity, specifically mentioning her interest in serving as the company's chief financial officer. She argued that her recent MBA had given her expertise in financial management and strategic planning that could help the company scale more effectively. Against my better judgment, and partly because I still hoped to repair my relationships with family members, I agreed to bring Brittany on board as CFO. Marcus had some reservations about hiring family members, warning me about the potential complications that could arise when personal and professional relationships intersected. However, I convinced him that Brittany's financial background and MBA credentials made her a qualified candidate, and that having a trusted family member in a key position could actually be an advantage as the company grew rapidly. For the first 2 months, Brittany performed admirably in her role. She established proper accounting procedures, implemented financial reporting systems that satisfied both Marcus and our company's legal requirements, and even identified several opportunities to reduce operational costs without compromising our service quality. I began to think that perhaps I had been too suspicious of family motives and that Brittany was genuinely committed to helping the company succeed. However, my trust was shattered when I discovered irregularities during a routine review of our financial statements. $300,000 had been transferred from the company's operating account to what appeared to be a vendor payment for consulting services. When I investigated further, I found that the supposed consulting company was actually a shell entity that Brittany had created, with payments ultimately flowing into her personal checking account. She had been systematically siphoning money from TechVista Solutions while maintaining the appearance of legitimate business expenses. When I confronted Brittany with the evidence of her theft, she initially attempted to explain it as a temporary loan that she intended to repay once her personal financial situation stabilized. She claimed that she had invested her own money in the company's early setup costs and was simply recouping those expenses. When I pointed out that she had never made any such investments, she shifted to a more aggressive strategy, accusing me of being an incompetent financial manager who didn't understand the complexities of corporate cash flow. Brittany then escalated the situation by threatening to report my supposed financial mismanagement to Marcus Chen. She claimed that she had discovered evidence of other questionable expenditures and poor business decisions that called my leadership capabilities into question. Given Marcus's significant investment in the company, she argued that he deserved to know about these problems before they became more serious. The implicit threat was clear. If I exposed her theft, she would retaliate by undermining my credibility with our primary investor and potentially destroying the business relationship that had saved my company. Faced with this impossible choice, I reluctantly agreed to remain silent about the stolen money. However, Brittany wasn't satisfied with merely avoiding consequences for her theft. She continued to manipulate the company's financial records, gradually creating the appearance of mounting debts and poor financial performance. She documented fake vendor relationships, inflated expense reports, and even created fraudulent loan agreements, suggesting that I had borrowed an additional $800,000 from various family members to keep the company operating. Despite the internal financial manipulation that Brittany was orchestrating, TechVista Solutions continued to thrive in the marketplace. Our software had gained recognition for its innovative approach to business automation, and we secured our largest contract to date with Global Tech Industries, a Fortune 500 company that needed AI-powered solutions for their supply chain management. The contract was worth $2.5 million over 3 years and represented validation that our technology could compete at the highest levels of enterprise software. Industry publications began featuring articles about our company, and I was invited to speak at technology conferences about the future of artificial intelligence in business applications. This success should have been a moment of triumph and family celebration, but instead it triggered the most devastating betrayal I could have imagined. Without any warning or prior discussion, my parents filed a lawsuit against me in federal court, claiming that I owed them $2.3 million in unpaid loans that I had allegedly received to start and maintain TechVista Solutions. According to their legal filing, I had signed formal loan agreements with them on multiple occasions, borrowing money to cover everything from initial startup costs to ongoing operational expenses. The documentation they presented to the court appeared professionally prepared and legally sophisticated. There were loan agreements bearing my signature, email exchanges where I supposedly acknowledged the debts and promised repayment schedules, and detailed financial records showing the transfer of funds from their personal accounts to various business expenses. The paperwork was so convincing that even I began to doubt my own memory about what financial arrangements I had made during the company's early days. Brittany had clearly been instrumental in creating this fraudulent evidence. As the company's CFO, she had access to all business financial records and could easily fabricate documents that appeared to show loan transactions. More troubling, she had apparently been practicing my signature because the loan agreements bore what looked like authentic versions of my handwriting. The email evidence was particularly sophisticated, created using my actual email account during periods when Brittany had access to my computer systems as part of her CFO responsibilities. The family had retained Vincent Harrington, a prominent litigation attorney who happened to be Dad's longtime friend from their college fraternity. Vincent specialized in complex business disputes and had a reputation for aggressive tactics that often intimidated opponents into favorable settlements. His law firm, Harrington and Associates, was known for taking cases on contingency when they were confident about winning significant judgments. The fact that Vincent was willing to represent my parents on contingency suggested that he believed their fraudulent evidence was strong enough to prevail in court. The lawsuit's immediate impact was devastating to my business operations. Marcus Chin received notice that his investment might be at risk due to outstanding debts that predate his involvement with the company. Several clients became nervous about our company's financial stability and began asking questions about whether TechVista Solutions would be able to fulfill long-term service contracts. The legal cloud hanging over the business made it nearly impossible to pursue new opportunities or secure additional funding for expansion. More personally, the betrayal cut deeper than any financial damage could have. These were the people who had raised me, supported me through college, and celebrated my achievements throughout my life. The realization that they were willing to fabricate evidence and destroy my professional reputation for financial gain challenged everything I thought I understood about family loyalty and love. I found myself questioning whether any of their past support had been genuine or whether they had always viewed me primarily as a potential source of income. The local business community began buzzing with rumors about the lawsuit. Industry colleagues who had previously respected my technical expertise started treating me differently, as if my family's accusations had somehow tainted my professional credibility. Some potential clients postponed meetings or canceled exploratory discussions, unwilling to risk association with a company involved in such dramatic legal disputes. The stress was affecting every aspect of my life, from my ability to sleep at night to my capacity to focus during important business meetings. Vincent Harrington's strategy became clear as the litigation progressed. He wasn't simply trying to collect money that my family believed they were owed. Instead, he was systematically working to place TechVista Solutions into bankruptcy proceedings, which would allow my family to claim the company's assets as collateral for the alleged debts. If successful, this approach would essentially transfer ownership of my company and its valuable intellectual property to my parents, Derek and Brittany, allowing them to benefit from years of my work and innovation.
Part 6. Cuộc chiến pháp lý và sự tuyệt vọng.
The magnitude of the legal challenge I was facing required professional help that would stretch my financial resources to the breaking point. I hired Elizabeth Warren, an experienced business litigation attorney who specialized in defending against fraudulent claims and family-related disputes. Her hourly rate of $500 was steep for a startup founder who was already dealing with cash flow problems, but her reputation for thorough preparation and courtroom effectiveness made her worth the investment. Elizabeth immediately recognized the sophisticated nature of the fraud my family had constructed and warned me that defeating it would require extensive investigation and expert analysis. My family's legal team at Morrison & Associates was far larger and better funded than anything I could afford. Vincent Harrington had assembled a team of junior attorneys, paralegals, and financial analysts who worked full-time on building the case against me. They were conducting depositions of my business associates, subpoenaing financial records from banks and vendors, and hiring their own expert witnesses to support their claims. The disparity in legal resources was intimidating, especially considering that they were using what was essentially stolen money from my company to fund their aggressive litigation strategy. The evidence they presented to the court was meticulously crafted to portray me as financially reckless and dishonest. They produced credit card statements showing expensive purchases that they characterized as frivolous spending, when in reality these were legitimate business expenses for client meetings, technology equipment, and professional development. They highlighted travel costs associated with business development trips, presenting them as evidence of a lavish lifestyle funded by family loans. They even twisted my decision to hire Brittany as CFO into evidence that I knew the company was in financial trouble and needed family assistance to survive. Derek's testimony during the discovery process was particularly damaging. He testified under oath that I had repeatedly approached him for financial help, claiming that the business was struggling and that I needed family support to avoid bankruptcy. According to his sworn statement, I had specifically requested that any family loans be structured informally to avoid the complications and restrictions that would come with traditional business financing. He portrayed himself as a reluctant but supportive brother who had agreed to help despite reservations about my business judgment and financial management skills. Brittany's contribution to their case was even more devastating because of her insider knowledge of TechVista Solutions operations. She provided detailed financial analysis suggesting that the company had been operating at a loss since its inception and that only repeated family loans had prevented bankruptcy. She presented fabricated email exchanges where I supposedly acknowledged these debts and promised repayment once the company became profitable. Her testimony was particularly convincing because she could speak authoritatively about specific business transactions and financial details that would have been difficult for outsiders to fake. The media attention surrounding the case was uniformly negative for me and my company. Local business publications ran articles with headlines like "Tech Startup Accused of Family Fraud" and "Entrepreneur's Family Claims Massive Unpaid Debts." The coverage typically presented the story as a cautionary tale about the dangers of mixing family relationships with business ventures, implying that I had taken advantage of family generosity and betrayed their trust. Industry blogs and social media discussions generally assumed that there must be some truth to my family's claims, reasoning that parents and siblings wouldn't fabricate such serious accusations without justification. The stress of fighting the lawsuit while trying to maintain business operations was taking a severe toll on my physical and mental health. I was working 18-hour days trying to manage both the legal defense and the day-to-day responsibilities of running TechVista Solutions. My appetite disappeared, and I lost 15 pounds in just 2 weeks, prompting concerned comments from employees and clients about my appearance. Sleep became nearly impossible as I lay awake at night replaying conversations with family members, trying to understand how relationships I had trusted completely could have been so thoroughly corrupted by greed and manipulation. Marcus Chen's continued support during this period was crucial to my survival both financially and emotionally. Despite the legal cloud hanging over his investment, he maintained confidence in the company's technology and market potential. However, even Marcus was beginning to express concerns about the impact that prolonged litigation might have on our ability to secure new clients and expand operations. He warned me that if the legal situation wasn't resolved soon, we might need to consider selling the company to a larger firm that could weather the controversy more easily than a small startup. Several existing clients began reconsidering their contracts with TechVista Solutions, concerned about whether the company would be able to provide ongoing support and development if the lawsuit resulted in bankruptcy or ownership changes. The global tech contract, which had been such a source of pride just months earlier, was now in jeopardy as their legal department reviewed whether the allegations against me might constitute grounds for contract termination. The irony was devastating. Success that should have vindicated my decision to start the company was instead being used as evidence by my family that I owed them money for making that success possible. Just when the situation seemed hopeless and I was beginning to consider whether I should accept some kind of settlement to end the nightmare, an unexpected ally emerged. Sarah Kim, a forensic accountant with expertise in detecting financial fraud, contacted me after reading about the case in industry publications. She had recently completed similar work exposing family-related business fraud in other high-profile cases and was intrigued by the sophisticated nature of the allegations against me. More importantly, Sarah offered to provide her services pro bono, explaining that she was building a portfolio of cases involving financial manipulation by family members and believed that my situation represented an important opportunity to establish legal precedents. Sarah's analysis of Brittany's financial records immediately revealed inconsistencies and anomalies that suggested systematic manipulation. Using advanced forensic software, she was able to detect digital alterations in supposedly original documents, revealing that dates had been changed, amounts had been modified, and entire transactions had been fabricated after the fact. She discovered that many of the loan agreements bearing my signature had been created weeks or months after their supposed signing dates, based on metadata embedded in the digital files. Her findings provided the first concrete evidence that my family's claims were not simply mistaken or exaggerated, but were instead part of a deliberate fraud designed to steal my company. Marcus Chen's decision to increase his support during this critical period demonstrated his confidence in both my integrity and the strength of the evidence Sarah was uncovering. Rather than distancing himself from the controversy, Marcus made a strategic decision to invest an additional $500,000 in TechVista Solutions, sending a clear signal to the business community that sophisticated investors still believed in the company's future. His willingness to deepen his financial commitment during the height of the legal battle provided crucial credibility with clients and vendors who had been wavering in their support. During one of our strategy meetings, Marcus revealed information that fundamentally changed my understanding of my family's motivations. He told me that Brittany had contacted him several months earlier, before the lawsuit was filed, with a proposal to buy out my stake in TechVista Solutions. According to Marcus, Brittany had presented herself as a concerned family member who believed that I was in over my head with the responsibilities of running a technology company. She had suggested that the family could provide better management and strategic direction, while ensuring that I received fair compensation for my role in developing the initial technology. Marcus had declined Brittany's proposal without telling me about it, reasoning that such decisions should be made by me as the founder and majority shareholder. However, Her approach revealed that the family's plan to take control of my company had been in development long before they filed the lawsuit. The legal action wasn't a response to legitimate financial grievances, but rather a calculated strategy to force a transfer of ownership when voluntary negotiations had failed to achieve their objectives. Sarah's investigation expanded beyond financial records to include a broader examination of my family's activities during the months leading up to the lawsuit. She hired Tom Rodriguez, a private investigator with experience in corporate fraud cases, to trace communications and financial transactions that might reveal the scope of the conspiracy against me. Tom's background in law enforcement had given him skills in surveillance and evidence gathering that would be crucial in documenting the coordination between family members. Tom's investigation quickly revealed that Derek had indeed established a competing company with a name strikingly similar to TechVista Solutions. The new company, called TechVista Systems, was clearly designed to capitalize on any confusion in the marketplace and to position Derek to take over my client relationships if the lawsuit succeeded in destroying my business. He had even attempted to hire away several of my key employees, offering them higher salaries and promising more stable employment with his established company. The existence of Derek's competing venture provided clear evidence that the family's goal was not simply to collect debts, but to completely eliminate me from the industry I had worked so hard to enter. Perhaps most importantly, Tom uncovered financial records showing that our parents had recently borrowed $1.5 million against their home to invest in a commercial real estate development project that had subsequently failed. The timeline of their financial distress coincided perfectly with the escalation of their pressure on me to accept family investment in TechVista Solutions. Their lawsuit against me wasn't motivated by legitimate claims about unpaid debts, but rather by their desperate need to recover losses from their own poor financial decisions. They viewed my successful company as a convenient solution to their personal financial crisis, regardless of the impact on my life and career. Armed with this new evidence, Elizabeth Warren began developing a comprehensive defense strategy that would not only defeat my family's fraudulent claims, but would also position us to file counterclaims for damages caused by their conspiracy. The evidence of fraud was now overwhelming, but Elizabeth warned me that proving our case in court would still require careful preparation and strategic presentation of complex financial evidence to a judge who might not have extensive background in technology business operations. Tom Rodriguez's surveillance work proved to be even more valuable than we had anticipated. Using sophisticated recording equipment and careful observation of my family's activities, he was able to capture conversations that provided direct evidence of their conspiracy to defraud me. The most damaging recording occurred when Derek met with Vincent Harrington at a restaurant to discuss strategy for the lawsuit. Derek could be clearly heard acknowledging that the loan documents were fabricated and expressing confidence that the fake evidence would be convincing enough to pressure me into a settlement that would give the family control of TechVista Solutions. In the recorded conversation, Derek also revealed details about how Brittany had used her position as CFO to steal money from the company and to create false financial records. He laughed about how naive I had been to trust family members with access to business operations, suggesting that my willingness to hire Brittany had made their fraud much easier to execute. Most importantly, the recording captured Derek admitting that their ultimate goal was not to collect legitimate debts, but to force me out of the technology industry entirely, allowing Derek's competing company to capture my clients and market position. Sarah Kim's forensic analysis of the fraudulent signatures provided additional crucial evidence for our defense. Using advanced handwriting analysis techniques and digital imaging technology, she was able to demonstrate that the signatures on the loan documents had been traced from legitimate examples of my handwriting found on other business documents. The forged signatures showed microscopic hesitation marks and pressure variations that were inconsistent with natural signing patterns, providing scientific evidence that the documents had been deliberately falsified. Marcus Chen's decision to increase his investment in TechVista Solutions to an additional $500,000 was strategically timed to coincide with our preparation for trial. The new investment served multiple purposes. It demonstrated continued confidence in the company's technology and market prospects. It provided additional resources to fund our legal defense, and it sent a clear message to the business community that sophisticated investors had thoroughly investigated the fraud allegations and found them to be without merit. Our legal team also uncovered evidence of serious ethical violations by Vincent Harrington that would undermine my family's case. Through careful review of court filings and legal correspondence, Elizabeth Warren discovered that Vincent had a significant financial interest in the outcome of the lawsuit beyond his normal attorney fees. He had apparently agreed to accept a 30% ownership stake in TechVista Solutions as part of his compensation if the lawsuit succeeded in transferring control of the company to my parents. This arrangement represented a clear conflict of interest that violated professional legal standards and called into question the integrity of all legal work performed on my family's behalf. The pressure of mounting evidence against them caused Brittany to make increasingly desperate attempts to cover her tracks. Tom Rodriguez observed her making multiple trips to dispose of documents and computer equipment that might contain evidence of her financial manipulation. However, her efforts to destroy evidence were largely unsuccessful because Elizabeth Warren had already secured court orders requiring preservation of all relevant business records. More importantly, the data recovery specialists we hired were able to reconstruct most of the deleted files from computer hard drives and backup systems. Our investigation also revealed that Vincent Harrington's law firm had been conducting unauthorized surveillance of my personal and business activities, apparently attempting to gather additional information that could be used to support their fraudulent claims or to intimidate me into accepting an unfavorable settlement. This surveillance included monitoring my email communications, tracking my business meetings with clients, and even following me during personal activities unrelated to the lawsuit. Such tactics represented additional ethical violations that would further damage my family's credibility in court. The FBI became involved in our case when Elizabeth Warren reported evidence of federal crimes including wire fraud, mail fraud, and conspiracy to commit fraud. The fabricated loan documents had been transmitted across state lines using email and postal services, making them subject to federal jurisdiction. Additionally, the use of fraudulent financial records to manipulate a bankruptcy proceeding constituted a separate federal offense that could result in significant criminal penalties for anyone involved in the conspiracy. As we prepared for trial, Marcus Chun helped me understand that our counterclaims against my family could potentially recover not only the money that Brittany had stolen, but also substantial additional damages for harm to the company's reputation and business prospects. The conspiracy had already cost TechVista Solutions several major client relationships and had prevented us from pursuing expansion opportunities that could have been worth millions of dollars in revenue. The full scope of damages caused by my family's fraud was only beginning to become apparent as we calculated the long-term impact on the company's growth trajectory. The courtroom was packed with family members, business associates, and local media when the trial finally began. My parents sat confidently at the plaintiff's table, apparently convinced that their fabricated evidence and expensive legal representation would ensure victory. Derek wore his most expensive suit and projected an air of righteous indignation, as if he were the victim of my supposed financial irresponsibility. Brittany appeared nervous but determined, clutching a folder of documents that she believed would support their fraudulent claims against me. Elizabeth Warren's opening statement was a masterclass in legal storytelling that laid out the entire scope of my family's conspiracy in clear, compelling terms. She explained how the family had systematically sabotaged my business when I refused to accept their investment terms, how Brittany had stolen money while serving as CFO, and how they had fabricated loan documents when they needed money to cover their own financial losses. Elizabeth promised the court that our evidence would demonstrate not just that their claims were false, but that they represented a sophisticated criminal conspiracy designed to steal my company. Vincent Harrington's opening statement relied heavily on emotional appeals about family loyalty and trust, arguing that I had callously taken advantage of generous family members who had supported my entrepreneurial dreams. He presented my family as victims of my financial irresponsibility and suggested that their lawsuit was a reluctant but necessary step to recover money they had lent in good faith. However, his arguments seemed less convincing when contrasted with the detailed evidence Elizabeth had promised to present. Sarah Kim's testimony, as our first expert witness, was devastating to my family's case. She walked the court through her forensic analysis of the financial records, using enlarged displays to show exactly how documents had been digitally altered and backdated. Her presentation included side-by-side comparisons of original bank records with the fabricated versions that Brittany had created, making it impossible for anyone in the courtroom to miss the obvious evidence of manipulation. Sarah's scientific approach and detailed methodology left no room for doubt about the systematic nature of the fraud. When Elizabeth Warren played Tom Rodriguez's recording of Derek's conversation with Vincent Harrington, the impact on the courtroom was immediate and dramatic. Derek's own voice could be clearly heard admitting that the loan documents were fake and discussing strategy for pressuring me into surrendering control of my company. The recording also captured Vincent laughing about his financial interest in the outcome of the case, providing evidence of the ethical violations that had compromised my family's legal representation. Brittany's testimony under cross-examination marked the complete collapse of my family's case. Faced with overwhelming evidence of her theft and document forgery, she began by attempting to maintain her innocence, but quickly became confused and contradictory when pressed for details. Elizabeth Warren systematically walked her through each falsified document, each stolen payment, and each fabricated email, making it impossible for Brittany to maintain her denials. Finally, faced with evidence that she could not explain away, Brittany broke down completely and admitted to her role in the conspiracy. Derek's attempt to testify in his own defense was equally unsuccessful. Tom Rodriguez's recording had already proven that Derek was lying under oath about his knowledge of the fraudulent documents. When confronted with evidence of his competing company and his attempts to steal my employees and clients, Derek became angry and defensive, further damaging his credibility with the court. His testimony revealed the depth of his resentment toward my success and his determination to destroy my business regardless of the consequences for family relationships. Our parents' reaction to the exposure of their children's criminal activities was perhaps the most heartbreaking aspect of the entire trial. They had genuinely believed Derek and Brittany's claims about my supposed debts and had allowed themselves to be convinced that legal action was justified. When they learned the true scope of the fraud that had been committed in their names, they appeared shocked and devastated. The realization that their own children had manipulated them into participating in a criminal conspiracy seemed to age them years in just a few hours. Judge Harrison's ruling was swift and comprehensive. He declared that the evidence presented during the trial demonstrated one of the most elaborate and malicious fraud schemes he had encountered during his 20-year career on the bench. He dismissed all claims against me and TechVista Solutions and awarded us substantial monetary damages to compensate for the theft, business losses, and legal expenses we had incurred. Additionally, he referred the case to federal prosecutors for potential criminal charges against Derek, Brittany, and Vincent Harrington. Vincent Harrington's legal career effectively ended that day when Judge Harrison reported his ethical violations to the State Bar Association. The revelation that he had negotiated a secret financial interest in the case outcome, combined with evidence of unauthorized surveillance and other misconduct, resulted in immediate suspension of his license to practice law. His law firm's reputation was permanently damaged, and several other cases he had been handling were reopened to investigate whether similar ethical violations had occurred. The most surprising moment of the entire ordeal came when Judge Harrison revealed his personal familiarity with TechVista Solutions and its reputation in the technology industry. As he explained his ruling, the judge mentioned that his court had recently implemented our AI-powered case management software as part of a statewide initiative to modernize the judicial system. He had personally witnessed the efficiency improvements and cost savings that our technology delivered, making him intimately familiar with the quality and innovation that my company represented in the marketplace. Judge Harrison's endorsement of my company's technology and business practices provided the ultimate vindication for everything I had endured during the legal battle. His comments about TechVista Solutions' positive impact on court operations were widely reported in legal and technology publications, essentially serving as a testimonial from one of the most respected judges in the state. The irony was not lost on anyone in the courtroom. My family had dragged me into bankruptcy court to destroy my company, only to have the judge recognize and praise the very business they were trying to steal. The financial settlement awarded by the court required Derek and Brittany to pay $1.8 million in damages, compensation that included not only the money Brittany had stolen but also punitive damages for the harm they had caused to my company's reputation and business prospects. However, their ability to pay such a large judgment was limited by their own financial circumstances. Derek's competing company had failed to gain any significant market traction, and Brittany was unemployed following her termination from TechVista Solutions. My parents' situation was perhaps the most tragic outcome of the entire affair. Their investment in the failed real estate development, combined with the legal expenses they had incurred during the lawsuit, had exhausted their retirement savings and forced them to sell their family home. They were now living in a modest rental apartment, struggling to understand how their children's greed and manipulation had destroyed decades of careful financial planning. The emotional toll of learning about Derek and Brittany's criminal conspiracy seemed to have broken something fundamental in their spirits. Despite everything my parents had put me through, I found that I couldn't maintain anger toward them once I understood how completely they had been manipulated by their other children. They had been victims of the same conspiracy that had targeted me, deceived by carefully crafted lies and fraudulent evidence. Rather than pursuing additional legal remedies against them, I quietly helped them find suitable housing and connected them with financial counselors who could help them rebuild their modest retirement nest egg. The healing process that followed the trial's conclusion was both challenging and transformative. I began working with a therapist who specialized in family trauma and betrayal, learning to process the complex emotions of having been victimized by the people I had trusted most deeply. Therapy helped me understand that the conspiracy against me said nothing about my worth as a person or my capabilities as a business leader, but rather reflected the character flaws and financial desperation of family members who had chosen to prioritize money over relationships. I also discovered the therapeutic value of physical exercise and mindfulness practices. Yoga classes became a regular part of my routine, providing both physical stress relief and mental clarity that helped me maintain perspective during the most difficult periods of recovery. The discipline of regular practice taught me patience with myself and acceptance of experiences I could not control, lessons that proved valuable both personally and professionally. TechVista Solutions emerged from the legal battle stronger than ever, with expanded operations in 5 major cities and a growing reputation as one of the most innovative companies in the business automation industry. The publicity surrounding the trial, while initially concerning, ultimately worked in our favor by demonstrating our integrity under extreme pressure and highlighting the quality of our technology through Judge Harrison's endorsement. Several new clients specifically mentioned that they had chosen our services based on the company's proven ability to maintain excellence despite extraordinary challenges. Marcus Chen's continued support throughout the ordeal evolved into a deeper business partnership that extended far beyond his original investment. He provided strategic guidance that helped me navigate the rapid expansion following our legal victory, and his network of contacts opened doors to opportunities that would have taken years to develop through traditional business development efforts. More importantly, his unwavering confidence during the darkest periods of the conspiracy taught me valuable lessons about the importance of choosing business partners based on character, as well as financial resources. I established the TechVista Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting entrepreneurs who have been victimized by family-related business fraud or sabotage. The foundation provides legal assistance, financial counseling, and emotional support to help other founders rebuild their companies and their lives after experiencing similar betrayals. Working with other survivors of family business fraud has been instrumental in my own healing process, providing perspective on how common these situations are and how possible it is to emerge stronger from such experiences. The legal precedent established by our case has been cited in subsequent fraud litigation across multiple states, helping other victims of family-related business conspiracies secure justice and compensation for their losses. Elizabeth Warren has become a nationally recognized expert in family business fraud, and she frequently speaks at legal conferences about the sophisticated tactics that family members sometimes use to steal successful businesses from their relatives. The most profound lesson I learned from this experience was that family relationships, like all relationships, must be based on mutual respect and genuine care rather than simply shared genetics. The people who supported me during the most difficult period of my life, including Marcus Chun, Sarah Kim, Tom Rodriguez, and Elizabeth Warren, demonstrated more loyalty and compassion than my biological family had shown. They proved that meaningful relationships are built through shared values and mutual support rather than through accident of birth. Trust, I discovered, is not something that should be given automatically based on family relationships or historical patterns. Instead, trust must be earned through consistent actions and demonstrated integrity over time. The conspiracy against me succeeded initially because I had extended trust based on family bonds rather than evaluating each person's character and motivations independently. Moving forward, I committed to building relationships based on observed behavior rather than assumed obligations or expectations. The experience also taught me the importance of surrounding myself with people who genuinely celebrate my successes rather than viewing them as opportunities for personal gain. The resentment and jealousy that motivated Derek and Brittany's conspiracy were warning signs I had overlooked, perhaps because I wanted to believe that family members would naturally want the best for each other. I learned to value relationships with people who find joy in others' achievements and who offer support without expecting anything in return. Today, TechVista Solutions continues to thrive as a leading innovator in artificial intelligence and business automation, with technology that is helping companies across the country improve their efficiency and profitability. The company employs over 100 people, has offices in major cities throughout the United States, and has been recognized with numerous industry awards for technical excellence and business innovation. More importantly, the company culture emphasizes integrity, transparency, and mutual respect, values that were forged in the crucible of our legal battle. My relationship with my parents has slowly begun to heal, built on a foundation of honesty about what happened and genuine remorse for their role in the conspiracy. They have worked hard to rebuild trust through consistent actions over time, and while our relationship will never be the same as it was before, it has become stronger in some ways because it is based on truth rather than assumptions about family loyalty. Derek and Brittany, however, have shown no genuine remorse for their actions and remain estranged from the family. The financial success that followed our legal victory allowed me to achieve goals that had seemed impossible during the darkest periods of the conspiracy. However, the most valuable outcome was not monetary, but rather the confidence that comes from surviving such an extreme test of character and integrity. I learned that I am stronger and more resilient than I had ever imagined, capable of rebuilding relationships, businesses, and trust even after experiencing profound betrayal. Looking back on everything that happened, I can honestly say that I am grateful for the experience despite its difficulties. The conspiracy forced me to develop inner strength, discernment, and resilience that have served me well in all areas of life. It taught me to value authentic relationships over convenient ones, and to base trust on demonstrated character rather than assumed obligations. Most importantly, it proved that success built on integrity and hard work is ultimately more satisfying and sustainable than any achievement based on manipulation or deception. Family isn't just about blood relationships or shared genetics. True family consists of the people who believe in your dreams, support your growth, and celebrate your successes without expecting anything in return. Sometimes the family you choose through shared values and mutual respect becomes stronger and more reliable than the family you inherit through accident of birth. Trust is earned through consistent actions over time, not inherited through family bonds or historical patterns. Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone you trusted completely? How did you rebuild your confidence and relationships afterward? Share your story in the comments below, and let me know what lessons you learned from overcoming difficult family dynamics. Don't forget to hit that like button if this story resonated with your own experiences, and subscribe for more incredible tales of triumph over adversity. Please share this video with anyone who might benefit from hearing about resilience and redemption in the face of family betrayal. Thank you for taking this journey with me, and remember that sometimes the strongest families are the ones we create through choice rather than chance. Your support means the world to me, and I wish you strength and wisdom in building authentic relationships that truly matter.